Hello, Froggy here, and today we'll be glitching out of the deep dives that you can launch from the helm. Bungie was nice enough to provide us with a private setting for this. Hopefully that becomes a theme. I'd recommend bringing Salvation's Grip as well as a Eager Edge sword. You don't need Salvation's Grip, but it will make your life a lot more consistent. Thanks to /frag, who did a lot of exploring here with me and came up with the majority of this route.
This is tactical.
Sometimes you can get grenade enhancement here, which is fairly nice, but the enhancements end up going away where we're going. You can get out there, but we'll do that in a different video. There will be spoilers later on, but that won't be until we get out of map, and I'll give you plenty of warning in case you want to jump out before then.
Roger that. Guardian, you go left, I go right. If we hit at the same time,
When I first came through here, I tried res breaching up on these pipes over here, and while I could get pretty close, sadly it didn't quite seem to be enough. Luckily it isn't particularly necessary. The area we're heading to is someplace we've not yet been in the deep dives. I'm not sure if it's going to be a regular deep dive or some sort of special mission or perhaps even an exotic mission. All I know is that it's definitely not a very usual looking part. Anyways, we'll be getting out of map just ahead. I would recommend not putting the drill down unless you want to do this on a tight timer.
You've reached the drill site. Extract everything you can as quickly as you can.
There are multiple holes that you can use here. I've been favoring the one over in this direction. Thanks again to /frag for showing me this. Just jump up on this little ledge, and I recommend jumping into the hole on the far right just so that you're closer and don't fall through the mesh. It can be a little bit annoying if you do, but you can just jump back up. So, because I'm going here with Salvation's Grip, I am not going to be doing any sword flying on the way. That isn't necessary, but it does show that you can do this on any class most likely. I haven't bothered trying it on different ones myself, but there's nothing too fancy going on. Got a little bit of ground here. There's a lot of death barriers around, so it is highly probable that you will end up running into one a couple times when trying to make the jump. Whenever you get too close to a watery area, you will get the water effects, which can let you glide kind of easily, but also gets rid of all your abilities, which is kind of a pain. We're trying to get around and downwards a bit, so don't worry too much if you miss some of the platforms. If you respawn far enough away from the water area, you'll gain your abilities back. We want to cross over to the ground right in front, but I don't think I'm going to be making that without my melee there. Let's try that again. Might be able to use some of the stuff to the left as a jumping point if it doesn't get too watery. There is an invisible wall right to my left there, so you want to go to the right to avoid it. And we are now approaching the next load zone. You can find it right up against the wall here. There are multiple methods to choose now. You could do a Hub IRB over there, but first I'll be showing you the fallback method. I like to use that little smudge as an indicator of where to hit the load. If you die to the load, you'll spawn inside, which is just fine if you're going for the fallback method. In fact, the fallback method doesn't really care if you die to the load or not. This is the reverse of the direction we want to go, is just taking a little peek inside. The other method is racing a spawn door, and if you're going that way, you need to survive the load, which is where the Hub IRB comes in. But we'll get to that in a bit. Somewhere close to the end of this watery section, you'll hit the next load zone, and once you do that, you don't want to set a spawn point. However, they're very tricky, and they've set a masked zone just before it that has the same name, so you don't get the normal name toast when you hit the load. So let's see what I've got here. Unfortunately, this is not the default spawn, but if something like this happens, it's pretty easy to go back and just hit the previous load again. There's a small visual indication when you hit the load. You'll see that that goes from a black door to populated. And that's when you know you've gone far enough. I would just keep jumping, and once you've gone down the exit here, die and you will respawn at the default, assuming you didn't accidentally set a spawn point like I did before. Out of bounds is a great ricochet weapon to die with. This time we're at the default. The new Salvation's Grip is quite handy for blocking large areas, and it works quite nicely here with the wall to the back. You want to make sure to die against a wall quickly, and if you respawn before the crystals go away, you should spawn way ahead. Let's go see how far ahead via the door racing method. For that, we very much want to load outside the map, so we'll use a Hub IRB. Denovic will be getting my res from the previous zone. You'll just want to die over here, and then go to hit the load. If you survive, congratulations! Otherwise, you're going to want to not respawn yourself and let your ally in the previous zone res you. Since we were in the hub, they'll be able to see your ghost and res you cross-load zone. Very convenient. Now we're basically going to follow the path that we did before, but on the outside. After we die, we should get our abilities back, which will make that considerably easier. You can jump up these handy taken platforms and up over to the side here. It'll be a little annoying because you will once again get the water effects, but the jump isn't too bad. If you go backwards a bit, it's also possible to get on top of the whole thing, which can make the traversal a bit easier. Either way, we'll be dropping down at the end. The shimmery surface you briefly saw to the left can be used to get your abilities back. I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that so that it is much more possible to get underneath this section and re-enter the map. We're going to be racing that door spawn. I would definitely recommend having an eager edge sword on. And as soon as you jump up into the surface here, you'll hit the load. An eager edge swing should be enough to get past the door. If not, there's always the fallback to use as a fallback. And we're in another water area. Though we are quite close to where we were previously. And we're out. Now that the paths have converged, we're getting towards potential spoilery areas. So if you'd like to see them in-game first, perhaps back out now. We've got a kind of odd-sounding hole over here. I'm guessing that also will probably show up there, given the size of the hole and the odd noises, but we'll see. There is a convenient hole in this section. If you climb up, you can go right over to the shelf over here, and there is a handy hole to get out. While any class can get to this point, some of the stuff up ahead will be quite tricky to do if you're not on a Titan. So I would definitely recommend being on one. We're currently climbing up high to get a good position to sword fly over to the next bit. You may have noticed that the door that we raced through was not the only door in that area. There was also a pyramid door. And we're going to be heading to the area behind that now. Of course, it is probably going to be a little difficult to sword fly over there without a sword. And might as well set it up for some ammo regen. You want to have low ammo while alive, and high max ammo when dead to regen ammo. Now that my exotic isn't in use, I can switch to my handy fighting lion. So if you look over in that direction, you can see the ground that we would like to land on. If you go too far to the right, you will get water effects. So you want to stick a bit to the left. With a Stasis super, you don't need to use your sword at all to cross this gap. But we will be needing to do a fair bit more sword flying, so definitely good to have your sword on. We'll be crossing this plane to get to the next area, and then doing a fair bit of sword flying and stasis climbing. I would recommend getting your ammo to full here, because the higher your ammo is, the faster you regen with this method. Once you're happy with your ammo supply, it's time to move on. First, we're going to be taking a look at an area that I like to refer to as the Labyrinth. You can get on top of the platform we're up against, kind of close to its beginning. If you do it too far along, you'll find that there is a barrier preventing you from jumping up. So if you find yourself unable to jump up, just go closer to the start. From here, you can drop down and fly over to a sort of catwalk area, and that will give you access to a rather large pyramid area room. It's got rings, pyramid things, creepy statues, the whole works. It's also got various dead-end looking things, but generally they're not really dead ends. Up this way, there's a door that doesn't seem to respect my fighting lion shots. But we'll be getting past that later. Well, it is kind of labyrinthy. pretty much all of the dead ends are not quite as dead end as they might initially look. Most of them you can simply slide under or jump over or something like that. I imagine this will be a encounter where something is chasing you and you have to evade it. Perhaps some sort of minotaur. But yeah, this area is rather large, so hopefully we do something interesting in it. It's got kind of 4 color-coded regions. Got the red room over here, and earlier there was some green, yellow, and blue. Once you want to go further in, make your way back to the catwalk. It can be kind of tricky to orient yourself in the direction you'd like to go, but just keep in mind that on the way in, we passed by that pyramid up there, and it does poke out through the ground. If you try to turn right to go to the exit wall too quickly, you'll hit a kill barrier. So you want to make that turn a bit later to avoid it. Once again, just going a bit wider here. And then turning right. Because of the slant of the walls, you don't need to stasis climb up it, but it can be helpful to drop a crystal if you're having trouble or you want to save some sword ammo. Now that we're up, it's time to head towards the final area. You can set a spawn point over here, but don't go too far forwards or you'll hit a kill barrier. We're going to be sword flying underneath the structure here, and there isn't much clearance. So you're probably going to have to use a much faster sword flying cadence than you normally would to keep your flight relatively level. Luckily, you don't have to go too far like this. As soon as we get to the other side, we'll be climbing back up this slanted surface. Unfortunately, it doesn't continue up forever this way, but you can set a spawn point at the top, which will come in handy in case we mess up the stasis climbing part. We're going to want to climb up diagonally to avoid kill barriers, and it will take a while, so let's skip ahead to the end. Up top, it looks fairly solid, but there are 2 holes that you can use to drop into the chamber below, behind the door that we saw earlier. And here we are, the audience. And what do you know, there's a darkness statue in this pyramid ship looking area. Who would have thought it? I guess it is a different color than the ones we generally see. Wonder what it will be used for. But anyways, I look forward to seeing whatever it is. And in the meantime, there's still plenty to explore in the deep dives. If you check ./Frag's videos, he has a guide on getting out of map in various other areas of the deep dives, including areas that you can find some of the kind of coral collectibles early. Now let's see if we can get a better view of the statue. Using an emote against a wall with the HUD off gives a rather nice view. Coincidentally, very nice for making title cards.